Okay. Uh, Anyways, here we are, I guess. Uh, After a long while, we are finally so back, I guess. But yeah, what a what a weird thing to be back and to yet again not be doing what I said I was going to do. I think I have probably, I don't remember, but I think that probably if you go and check the very last like 3 or 4 streams, I said, yeah, you know what? We are going to read the Mahabharata after the one that I was doing is finished. The next one is going to be Mahabharata, and it doesn't happen. It just keeps not happening at all, but kind of expected at the same time, I guess. Kind of unavoidable. Being honest, if we are going to read, I want to dedicate it some time. And if I am going to dedicate it some time, I want to do it properly, not to have like today a little bit more than an hour merely to read. It will take incredibly lengthy amounts of days in that sense if we go by 1 hour or a little bit more. So I prefer to not do it like that. I was thinking about it because I wanted to say something along the lines of, and it is kind of weird even because there isn't really that much of an excuse as to why we really don't get to be here in that sense. And certainly, I know that I always have some problems waking up, so I had forgotten to change the schedule, yeah, my alarm, that is the word. My alarm itself to be more in time instead of so randomly having to wake up like at 7 to do it like without today at 8 be here. I should change it back to like 6 or 5. I remember, yeah, I used to wake up at like 5, but there is something problematic with this. Um, After being for a while here, I realized that I am tired, and that happens at around the hour mark or so on most days when we have quote unquote chill activity. So I don't like the idea of by being here too much getting even more tired, even if it is quite useful to get tired in that sense because it means that quite a lot of interesting stuff happened, and I simply don't stop to observe stuff in that sense that much, but it is mostly the avoidance of the comfortableness and whatnot, I guess. But yeah, we have to see. I was thinking about it, and we have like a whole week of free time this time around. Quite luckily, we have the opportunity of focusing a little bit more without any other excuse in the way to be here. And certainly, it is a wonderful event in that sense. After all, it doesn't happen quite often that we get opportunities like this one. And I think even the biggest problem was also the last one, which I had, I didn't, not that I didn't, I couldn't properly um, take advantage of. So yeah, this time around, it would be quite useful to try and focus in that sense a little bit more. After all, uh, one dog, not even all the dogs. Okay, there they are. All the dogs need to work, so we will give them a minute. And they aren't done. They are not done in the slightest. How much I love them. What a wonderful thing. Anyways, as I was saying, um, it happens that somehow do I really need to go out? Okay, give me a second. What a wonderful thing to have dogs. What a beautiful experience. Anyways, yeah, I was trying to say before. I don't know even if it is that necessary, but I remember uh, it was along the lines of I even used to wake up at like 5 a.m. just to be here earlier. But I always take like 1 hour to fully wake up. And if I wake up, so I will be here at around like 6 or so. Also, wait. I wanted to check. Did the Discord work this time around? Probably not, right? Yeah. How much I love this bot. I I quite certainly enjoy having the having a commodity which doesn't in any way function like it should. Anyways, here we are. So as okay, there it is. It worked now. I am happy. So continuing. I guess I will try to reschedule stuff in that sense. I don't know. I think yeah, it is quite problematic to be so tired. That is the only excuse I have in that sense. But at the very same time, once again, it is quite impossible to be in any way um, capable of advancing with what we have to. Mostly, besides all of these purest type of conversations, um, if we don't give it enough time. So yeah, I guess indeed tomorrow I will have to I will have to wake up a little bit earlier. And yeah. Also, quick side note: it has nothing to do with anything else. But also, good morning, Crispian. I hope you're well. I hope you're doing well. Good morning. Ah, and yeah, good day to you too. But yeah, I guess certainly the thing I dislike the most is that I needed to go to sleep even earlier. So I don't. That's the biggest problem, I guess. Not that I really don't like to. to wake up early, but rather that I don't like going to sleep early. I think that is the issue here. Um, yeah, but perhaps it is related to this idea of borrowed time and gaining back all of that time that you are forced to use on other things in life at night. This concept of you tend to stay awake even in bed, even if you know that you should be sleeping, because it gives you this sense of fulfillment, this sense of control, probably false control, because it makes you believe that somehow you are gaining more of the happiness that was lost throughout the rest of your days. Let's say, perhaps it is related to that, yeah. It makes sense indeed, but I don't really. Yeah, it isn't really. Not. It is an uncomfortable idea to think about, so I don't. I didn't see it that way. Perhaps it does come from something along those lines. I guess, yeah. There isn't any real excuse as to why we couldn't be here a little bit earlier, even, but we will see. Because even being tired doesn't impede us from being here. So, yeah, we will have to see. Um, we will have to manage in that sense. Also, I guess the ads are gone. Good morning, or well, good evening, Savannah. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, I don't know. That is the only main thing that I wanted to talk about. I had an interest to a desire to mention that. I guess I after all also it is quite annoying to only have 1 hour here and a little bit more, if any at all. It is quite it is always quite interesting to have the opportunity of discussing stuff and whatnot. And I don't I don't like it when I can't have these these spaces when it is possible, I guess. But we will see. We will see how it goes. We will certainly see. I I say it, I guess, as a promise for tomorrow, probably even earlier, and tomorrow probably. It is so funny to say it. Yeah, tomorrow we'll have Harata for the sixth time in a row. it it might happen. It might not happen. Not much. Yeah, no matter how many times I say it, I might not fulfill my word. So, ah, what a what a funny thing. Anyways, I guess that's the only thing that I really wanted to say. Now I leave. No, no. Ah, I don't know. I guess it is quite a wonderful thing to take control of stuff in that sense. I mean, more often than not, certainly we don't even stop to try and think about things in general. So it is quite annoying to have to do it because, yeah, at least I feel I am accustomed to not even thinking that much. And when you actively have to do it, you find out that, yeah, I think it is mostly annoying because there are so many problems, there are so many situations which could be solved. And also, even more sadly, there are so many situations which you could, in any way, make it better simply because you are starting to work on what is something that feels minimally better, that you realize why was I doing so much stuff that helps in no way whatsoever. But I guess even if it feels bad, it is always better to have that sensation and the benefits of having changed rather than to remain in the same place after all. Practical example here. I would have loved to stream earlier. There is literally nothing to impede me from doing that. I simply need to organize things. I simply need, as they will say, to organize my own life. It isn't that hard, you know? It, it takes a minimal degree of, I don't even know if it is introspection. After all, yeah, it is life. It isn't a more abstract degree of thinking. It is like, I simply need to organize. What am I going to do? And what's not? Not something more surprising or more complex, but most people, once again, don't even enjoy dealing with that feeling. And also, I guess it is quite indeed a notorious observation that more often than not, certainly, you're even gifted with the possibility of changing what is life, what is your own life, but you find out that somehow you have so many things that don't feel good that to even begin to unravel all of that would require quite a lot of effort, and to do so is indeed quite an annoying task because it is in so many ways out of your own control or out of the way in which you will truly say you enjoy how is it going that you would pretty much prefer to live it that way just to not deal with the annoyance of having to get everything in order, even if the order itself would make you so much happier. But yeah, I don't know. It is understandable, sadly. I don't like that it is understandable. It is part of existence that is it applies so easily to us. But yeah. Um anyways, give me give me 1 second. I want to drink water. Thank you. Anyways, so different stuff. I I don't know. There are so many things. There is there is too much. There is perhaps too much to consider. And yeah, okay. I remember what I wanted to say because it is quite related to this initial idea of there is too much. Um, I remember, or not that I remember. I mean, it is quite common to hear most people discuss it in any way and to struggle with it, certainly, in any way. It is about how common it becomes for most to struggle with the realization of their own interests and the performance of truly good things, something that feels in some way nice and more so pertaining the reality of, in this particular case, the capacity to communicate. I am still trying to understand something along those lines. It is always an interesting matter, I will say, perhaps, because it is something of the daily life after all. It is something that involves everybody. As long as you're part of the world, you are obliged almost to communicate. So even if you don't use words, you still need a system that allows you to sustain that degree of interchange of idea. But the problem here is it always happens that most people believe they can't explain things, and the best thing is there isn't even a deeper explanation than that. Most times it dies there, an idea. Ah, yeah, I might not be capable of doing something in the sense of I might not be capable of explaining to you how something works, and that's it. There is nothing else. There is no further theorization as to why something can't happen. No, the end line itself is, you know what? I can't. And I guess certainly leaving aside the cases of people who might as well simply not desire to do so, who might not have an interest in saying anything at all, and which simply hide themselves behind the excuse of, oh wow, this one thing, yeah, this is impossible to properly communicate to you, so I might as well not try. And besides that, those who really struggle, I guess, it simply is something along the lines of more times than not, you realize at least once you start to observe your actions in that sense, you realize the problem isn't really that you can't communicate what you are thinking about to others, but rather that you are still being too focused on if you are doing or if you are not doing, better to say, a bad job. When in reality, the only thing that should matter is if you are being capable of properly giving what the other person needs from what you are saying. That is, I don't like how it might seem to be the same thing when in reality it never is the same thing. It always is a discussion about also, yeah, it also traces to how even in normal social relations it can happen that somebody, because they are over focusing on themselves and not having problems with what they are saying, end up creating too much anxiety, and that is partially the norm for those who exist in the realm of social anxiety, that you're overly thinking only about yourself. Something along those lines very much translates to here. It isn't about your own performance and being the best in that sense, it simply is about the capacity of taking into account what you truly wish to say and being capable of manifesting that in consideration with the person that you have in front of you and with the understanding of what you truly want to give. I don't know. Sadly, I would, at this point in life, I would even go as far as to say, maybe, maybe it can even happen that, funnily enough, most people don't even stop to think about what they are truly trying to do. Partially why so many people have so many instances of completely meaningless chit chat on their lives, and why it is seen as something so normal for everybody is is the fact that we don't stop to try and have any better developed idea about those things. But I don't know. I think it uh, yeah, certainly that is quite a hard thing to say. I think we I give it as a given that everybody who is here, who tries to hear whatever is being said here, thinks by themselves, for themselves. Some people don't, certainly. Most people don't. And the nature of that is unavoidably the result of what we're observing later on. But I don't really think it really changes anything to simply say, oh wow. And because people doesn't think we have no possibility of changing the situations themselves, it doesn't work that way. Sadly, you can't avoid your own responsibility because others have a problem. It literally has nothing to do with the rest. If you can, by and for yourself, take actions in that manner. But I don't know, it is always an annoying thing to think about it in that sense. After all, it always becomes quite a recurrent argument in many ideas that you yourself, because you can understand what is the point, you should be capable of acting upon it. And because you're capable of getting what is the necessary part of action, you should somehow be capable of working towards making that one thing work. And quite indeed, I don't think it works that way. Not because by gaining awareness of something just by itself, you are now completely capable of acting on that. Sadly, even if what is given to you makes rational sense, it still needs the other components of moving you to action. The call to action that is emotion itself is most of the time lacking. And sadly, for example, going back to what I was mentioning before, why would anybody care about having better communication if it is simply, oh wow, yeah, you have better communication with somebody else, and therefore you can give your message in a more cleaner way? That is still nothing for somebody who fears so much saying what could be incorrect to who they have in front of them. That is still a level of ideas which doesn't change how you act and which doesn't allow you to take a better way in your actions. You are still burdened so much by the fear of somehow screwing up what is one of your even sometimes few relationships with somebody else. Why would you believe that simply because you try to say something nice or something more consciously oriented towards the other person, you are going to change anything? The other side of the argument is what lacks most of the time the capacity to portray, continuing with this example, the problems of, and it is a necessity to be capable of properly stating things in an understandable way, because if not, not only things could go wrong, but rather even the absence of communication at all could very much destroy what we consider important relations to others, what we believe is a precious thing for us, even if we ourselves are so sure of it, can very well disappear because the act of communication always requires two parties, let's say, to be immersed in it. And you can't expect the other side to understand what you want if you don't even, at the very least, give it a try. And the possibility of understanding and an even better outlook on any kind of idea itself that is being discussed or anything can only lead to even better results because you're accepting that it is an obligation for, at the very least, you to be capable of saying what is in your mind or what relates to the discussion itself. And most of the time, once again, something of that sort lacks in the discussion of, oh wow, yeah, you're given this. You should act responsibly on that. I don't feel like it will change anything if I don't really see an unnecessary evil which I have to avoid. Something that will unavoidably harm me enough so that I can always keep myself in check in terms of not acting towards that, but rather obviously in the complete opposite direction. I think even, yeah, I kind of struggle with that a little bit because it certainly is something more related to, let's say, an evil thing, but it is always useful to consider the negative consequences of not doing something in that sense. The negative outcomes of, oh yeah, you can act good in life. And if you don't, the whole world even might find itself in a bad place. It is a wonderful thing to consider, and it is a wonderful idea to have in mind, but we don't even try to think about it that way because somehow the mere concept of negativity is by itself bad. And I don't know, I guess I should, in that sense, probably after I'm done reading somebody like Machiavelli, I will have a better understanding of that concept. After all, it is quite useful to move yourself based on the fear of what could be, very much the consequences of your inactions rather than the understanding of what is good. Most people supposedly understand what is good, yet we fail in so many ways. It is by itself shown that simply knowing what is good doesn't change anything in that way. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it is simply a mere idea to keep observing. Also, good morning, Sharko. I hope you're well. But yeah, I guess I think minimally think. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED talk. One day it will happen. One day it won't sound so crazy. Good afternoon. Also, you avoided every single emote? How? Amazing. Um, but yeah, here we are. We are, I think, so far doing very well. So yeah, it is good indeed. I, 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 I can't let it slide. Isn't it good a filter word? What? Yeah, yeah, good, good. Somehow every single thing wasn't picked up by the emotes. Amazing. Anyways, I don't know. I guess, yeah, I mean, it is always an idea that brings too many problems to the table to consider that of. You can change things to make them work in a better way. If you consider also the negativity, it is more related. I'm trying to trick. No, I am not trying to trick anybody. I mean, there is this side of manipulation. Probably, I am trying to create an argument which sounds convincing enough to make anybody who listens to it act in a different way in accordance to what I perceive as a positive thing. That certainly can be conceived as a trick, as a kind of manipulation, because it is in the end the objective of any. given idea that is being shown to others, even if it isn't being imposed, but as long, I guess in this case, as long as it doesn't come from a negative place, I can bear the responsibility of tricking people with others. I guess I don't get angry because it is the reality. Yes, okay, but I don't know. I mean, I think, let's say like this. I think after all, also, I can happily say most of the times I don't I don't say the bad stuff of, oh yeah, you should do this because if not, these are going to be the consequences. I guess it is unavoidable to mention them, but it is better to think about the positive outcomes of all the changes that happen rather than the negative, yeah, precedents that were before it even changed. But I don't know. I guess in that sense, talking is always. I find it a wonderful thing. After all, you never truly know how something in the process of this whole thing of a communication, wow, it happens that something gets misinterpreted or something because simply people doesn't possess the exact same type of view on every given term. It happens that the idea itself, which gets conveyed to the other one, is not the very the very same that you were thinking about, even if literally there is no modification on what is being said by itself. But I mean, that is also part of the trust. That is part of, yeah, that is part of the capacity to see something positive in the receiver of what the message is. After all, yeah, it makes quite a huge degree of nonsense to only worry about will others fully get what I am trying to say. If more more often than not it really doesn't happen that the communication is made with bigger terms and whatnot. I don't know. I guess it always is something annoying in that sense. After all, it is the never-ending problem of I believe I can say something to somebody which might have some degree of usefulness, but I also worry that what I say gets misinterpreted. Certainly, the worry is useful, but it doesn't fully make the point that you might even have a necessity to show to the other person any less existent. It doesn't make it disappear or anything like that. I think that's why I don't like to think about it this way. The problem is most of the times, even you can conceive that what you find as a negative is simply there in the place of an excuse. And most of the times, most people simply have quite a handful of excuses to avoid doing what might even be, let's say, quote unquote, necessary in that sense. And it isn't even a problem because it happens. It is a problem because it is something accepted to happen and something even expected to happen. I I don't know. It is it is always quite annoying. It always relates to this idea of the human is the worst enemy of the human. Well, the self is the biggest enemy of the self in that sense. Not that other people even are your biggest problem. It is always related to how one acts, or almost always. Like I don't know, 90% of life is ordered in that way. The rest isn't really that negative or anything of the sort. I I don't know. I think, yeah, I am still thinking about quite a lot of things, and in that sense, remembering, I try to not mention them so much because I know it is quite impossible to expect um, people to spend all of that time following everything that I also personally learn, but in something, I think it was in the, I can exactly pull up the name. What was it? It was in the symposium, yeah, by Plato. There, something incredibly interesting happens about the discussion of what is even the concept of love. Something along those lines is always interesting to consider. After all, you don't even sometimes can conceive the importance of how trying to act in accordance with something useful can be to the rest, and sometimes it doesn't even come to the mind why trying to be that way in terms of giving others the possibilities that they very much have won or deserve by default is a useful thing rather than to simply see it in the negative lights of, oh wow, I might not have the possibility of saying anything interesting to this one person, or anything of any usefulness to somebody else. It isn't about the bad things. Again, as I said before, it isn't ever about those things. I don't like to see it on that light. It kind of tracing back. The act of manipulation itself always happens as long as you're capable of believing that what you can propose is better than what was existing before. Therefore, you make a convincing argument. It is better to make such type of arguments without worrying the other person so much, without making their conscience so heavy. I don't. In that sense, I will always remember as something that is, to a certain degree, almost like the heaviest type of mm, manipulation of, wow, most people by default are evil or are bad. A philosophical argument. The idea itself is quite wonderful. Do you really need to propose what you are saying as something so negative? Most people, when they get directly confronted, are not even capable of seeing what you say as anything else than a direct attack to them. Is it really useful to be so focused on what is bad? What do we truly gain if we only exist within the boundaries of, oh wow, you are doing all of this wrong? No, it is the very same thing as when you are a child almost. Everybody, when they were younger, got incredibly angry because somebody simply said, oh wow, you're doing something bad, without any clue whatsoever of what could be a fix for the problem. I can't work without an idea of what I needed to fix. I don't need to get every single day reminded of how little I am doing to fix stuff. I already have, to a certain degree, my own judgment for that, and most people always live with that constant inner voice which tells them how huge of a neglectment they are exerting on so many aspects of their existence, what is really the point of giving now a voice to that inner monologue or dialogue of always negative stuff? Is it positive in any way? I don't think so. But it is always easier to justify it as wow, and it is quite a wonderful experience. It is quite a useful idea to get directly attacked, to see that what could be an amazing discovery is given to you as the most aggressive message possible. Wow, it is indeed a fabulous way to change. It certainly is from being full of negativity that we accomplish quite a lot of things, as if we never had examples of the complete opposite, as if we literally didn't live in a world in which you could observe how much trying things with a good intention is what matters and what plays a huge role in most of the things that pertain to any kind of argument that exists between people. It will be better to convince ourselves of the complete opposite. It will somehow make us any kind of good to believe things that way rather than to try and see something in a positive light, I guess. But I don't know. After all, it ah, that is the problem with positivity. That even if it feels good, and even if it is better than the rest, even being positive feels bad because out of nowhere, nobody has the possibility of saying anything in a good light, and out of nowhere, you might even feel like you're doing some kind of harm to those around you because you can only see things, or you can keep trying your best to see things in a positive manner instead of focusing only on what is wrong. Is it really an honest message to say, wow, you know what, I will give up on the negative aspect? Is it good once you are surrounded with people who only live with the constant feedback of themselves and their surroundings, which makes them think about everything that is bad? It is good because I can only see and I can only perceive how annoying it becomes for the rest when you try to be that way constantly, and how much, I guess, to a more deeper level, it always is attractive what is bad, and in that sense, it always is, let's say, more convincing to believe that by observing everything that is bad, you win anything. That is why somebody who tries to present to you a different model of, wow, yeah, let's say you can see things in a positive manner, is out of nowhere, even if presented in a lovely way, let's say, is still against your view and against your principles. After all, it always feels so amazingly good to remain with those bad habits, I guess. After all, if they weren't so hard to deal with, we wouldn't be talking about them here. It would be like, I don't know, if you have a mosquito that you can kill, you kill it. You don't go anywhere and spend days upon days contemplating on the necessity of killing a mosquito. You know that if it is annoying you, you go ahead and make it disappear because you can, in fact, do it. But here it happens that somehow that is not the reality, that most of those negative habits have such a deep root in ourselves that simply trying to change them is something that requires effort, and simply trying to make them disappear is something that takes quite a huge degree of awareness about what is indeed that we want and what can be indeed a positive change for ourselves, I guess. But I mean, even then, it can be, I guess, traced or compared to some type of sickness, to some type of disease, because this isn't something that can't in any way be dealt with. It is rather an incredibly lengthy process which allows you finally, at some point, let's say, to make sure that you're removed from yourself completely all of those negative aspects and all of those, in this case, things that hold you back so much and things that literally hurt your own self. There is nothing else at risk more than ourselves when it comes to seeing things in such a bad light, to live only with what feels bad and what is negative. There is nothing besides the pain that it creates in the life itself of those who have all the accepted negative influences. And it can be then, once again, compared to a medical procedure of, yeah, I will slowly try to see how to act in a way in which I can start to remove it. I can start to, in any way, take it out of my life. I mean, that is also, to a certain degree, I know that I have, at this point, I have incredibly strayed from the initial idea of, wow, yeah, communication. I know. So, I guess I am allowed to keep straying even furthermore with something along the lines of, and that is why it is such a wonderful thing to think about what can be called positive, because only focusing on what is bad brings no victory to anybody. And because it is the reality of all who have tried that indeed, if you keep thinking in the very same way about the problem itself, it won't change. That is why something like the capacity of having faith, believing that things could be better, that the change towards the positivity itself is indeed a positive, brings so many good things to anybody. And it is something that so few times can properly be explained. And I guess it doesn't even come from compassion, it comes from the fear itself. What would anybody do? Keeps seeing themselves in such a negative light if they realize that they had so many wonderful capacities. What it is, the discovery of your own capacities, and to some degree, it is even the acceptance of the responsibility that is upon your own existence to out of nowhere realize how wonderful the world can be because you tried to see things in a positive light. It can be incredibly overwhelming for somebody who is only in a paradigm of negativity. And it certainly is a problem to simply say, wow, you know what? You need to change because you're gonna achieve great things. What? What does that mean? Even what is the point of simply saying something like that without further explanations? Do you mean that everything else that happened before wasn't great? Do you mean that what I am doing right now isn't good? What what is the point? I try to understand what you are saying, but I can't fully accept what you are saying. If it feels so much like I am in the wrong and like I am doing so many bad things, and that is always the problem with stuff of this sort, that you can't simply go ahead and tell somebody who is so deep on the hole of bad ideas a kind of solution that makes them feel like they have so much power, because it also comes with the realization of I always had these capacities. I never took advantage of that. I could have done so many great things in life and I never did them up until this point. I have wasted my life. It is incredibly hard to mention stuff of that sort. But I guess I don't know. It simply is once again the process of realizing that things can be in any way better than what they are right now. And even if it hurts, I will say, the mere possibility of things being even more great than what they ever were for ourselves is more valuable than the simple idea of wow, I have so many things that I am not doing right now that I could be doing, that I should be doing, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I certainly don't know. Sometimes, most of the times, I guess. And yeah, I guess along those lines, it always is quite a wonderful thing to try and see once again stuff in a better way. It is always quite hard, and it is always quite impossible. I love the previous points as to why we're already exposed. Not only do we personally have a tendency towards that, but also the whole environment in which we live biases you towards acting in that way, because it is accepted that seeing things in a bad way is somehow good. But trying to go against that shows you what is indeed useful. And I don't know, I think sometimes simple recognition of what can be in any way called a responsibility to is quite a wonderful thing. I mean, after all, I think, let's say like this, there is no need to talk about these kind of things here. We could spend all of our time doing everything else. We could very well not even be here at all. But it always is wonderful to do it, because it isn't a responsibility, it is a gift to do it. And it is the possibility of doing something of this sort that even if nobody else is doing, we can realize we are finally embracing in any kind of way, and we are trying to act towards those things in any kind of useful manner that feels nice. It isn't about what are the problems of others. Once again, negativity only brings more negativity. It changes nothing to see stuff from that light. It is about realizing how much of a wonderful chance everything is once you can try to see them. in such a light. And I don't know, most people certainly live in accordance with something along these lines. It doesn't mean everybody's doing a bad job or anything like that. It simply is. And it can be even better if you have started to realize that at the end of the day, somehow, quote unquote, you were your very own enemy. You can still try to work towards making things even greater, even better, just because you realized that indeed it was not just a possibility, but an opportunity that might not even come back. Something that is by itself useful and beautiful to have, but that even if no one else tries to have, it already is meaningful enough just for yourself. And that is more than sufficient for a cause to justify the efforts, I guess. I don't know. I I certainly say it every single day. I don't know. I keep repeating that. I don't know. I simply say what comes to my mind in that sense. It simply is a process of trying to dispose of every other bad thing that keeps everybody so much attached to a, a worse life than what they could ever have. I mean, trying to properly give it a closure. I don't like. I accept what I said before. It is a huge problem to tell somebody how great things can be for them if they were to take any kind of action. But it is a problem because it means that somehow the person can realize that they might have been doing something wrong. The whole past of themselves. It isn't about the past. That is already completely gone. You can only observe it in your memory. We have literally not even invented something that can alter in any meaningful way the past itself. You can at best change the memories of people about it, but what is done so far stays completed. There is no way for anybody to modify it. But it means not that, oh wow, you have made so many errors. You have to accept them and move on. No, or kind of. In reality, kind of. The point is really, even despite, besides all of those errors, is the possibility. An error doesn't exclude anybody from experiencing something great. An error doesn't mean that things can't get better, that one can't accomplish something wonderful. It doesn't work like that. It it isn't about that side of things. It isn't about how you never took action towards the possibility of seeing things in a better light, as it is this main argument. It is about, and from the moment in which you can finally realize something of that sort, as long as you're capable of acting towards this knowledge, everything will indeed be better. And you have already your own experience to compare how horrible it was to live with everything that was bad before. That is why you might even want to change it for something else, something that is less painful after all. Because, and that is one of the things that I hate so much, pain isn't in any way meaning, in any way something gratifying. It is simply a word in which somehow everybody thinks like that we can say something of the sort. It isn't something to aspire to, but I don't know. I guess I don't know. And yeah, I I have really not much more to say. Um, what a what a wonderful thing to say stuff, I guess. What a wonderful thing to have the possibility of communication. That is the message here. This time around, I yeah, I have nothing else to really say. I guess I am done for today. I will yeah, I yeah. I I finally enabled them. I finally learned how to use them. So now we don't have complete void as I am speaking like I do here. I can quote unquote justify it more. Also, ads probably Skeets isn't going to hear what I said. Fuck. Uh, but yeah. Anyways, I guess. Also, if Skitch is here, then he's streaming. Then I can't raid Skitch. Uh, ah, let me see. Can we? I will start to try and find somebody to raid. I guess. Ah, but yeah, what a what a thing. Sometimes what an incredibly crazy thing. There's so much stuff like here. I guess I guess certainly it is something wonderful. Hmm? Yeah, I, I I like so much the emotes because of that. That's the wonderful thing that I can do stuff like that. It's so funny to see people get angry at that. That is the main reason as to why I don't change them. I even if it is incredibly obnoxious to have them. Ah, it's so funny to see words getting twisted. Ah, anyways, what a what a wonderful time, I guess. As always, thanks for everything. I don't have that much more to say, so yeah. Wait, I guess I certainly don't even have somebody to. Ah, no, wait. Here, found somebody. Um, finally, somebody to write. I had been saying I'm going to leave for the past 5 minutes, I think. So yeah, let me speed it up. As always, thanks for everything. I guess certainly it is quite a wonderful thing to get to share whatever happens here, whatever I think, whatever is. Um, it is certainly something precious and something that will hardly be fully understood. I think it is one of those gifts, let's say, that in the moment you can hardly appreciate. I mean, if it were to be someone from a different timeline, let's say, it would blow their minds to think that I can come here and talk about what is nice about life. I can do that. I can contemplate on what is great. I can enjoy doing that. That is a wonderful thing. That is more than magnificent enough, and more than everything I would have ever needed to a certain extent. So, yeah, thanks as always. Whenever we can, anyways, that's it from me for today. Whenever I can, we're getting back here. But for today, nothing else to really say. I haven't really run out of time. As always. No, the opposite. I haven't run out of energy. I have run out of time. But yeah, we will. I will live, and we will see ourselves whenever we can. The next time. I don't even know when. So far, everything seems to indicate that tomorrow it will indeed happen. But even if it doesn't, whenever we can, we're getting back here. I don't even want to say that I will be reading. I have said it like 20 times already, and I have never fulfilled my yeah my word. Perhaps I will read. If I wake up early enough, I will read a little bit. Okay, I will leave here and I will instantly go and put my alarm in place before I forget. Anyways, as always, thanks. But nothing else to really add. Um, thanks for everything. Please keep yourself safe. Be happy. If it isn't something that I said enough times, for the love of God, be happy. Don't don't take the negative stuff so much to heart, to your own heart. It brings nothing good. But yeah, thanks for being here, and yeah, thank you. It always is also. Um, Even if I feel like I am kind of deflecting, it isn't really anything for me. Thanks for listening. That's the most meaningful thing. The, the stream can always happen, but what is meaningful is hearing it. So yeah, thanks for that. Anyways, entertainment or things of other nature, raid. We are going to go somewhere else to watch somebody play something. Pay attention to that. Distract yourself. Don't think too much, I guess. Don't think too much. Certainly a good idea.